This is a 10 by 12 inch painting done mainly with a palette knife and a soft synthetic brush. It's definitely overall a warm painting, and it's also a neutral painting. So I used less bright color while painting this image. There's a nice contrast of these warmer blues and the darker shades of these distant mountains against these brightly lit rocks. And one of the ways of making your painting look really light-filled is not to go too dark on your shadows. So if I had made these shadows under these light rocks a lot darker, I don't think it would have worked quite as well. Anyhow, take a look at how this painting was made. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. Take care. This is white chalk that I'm using for drawing, and I've divided my canvas into thirds. By having the canvas and my photo reference divided into thirds, it's easier for me to see the lines that I need to draw. This is a mixture of dioxazine violet and some GAC 500. I'm using a fine round brush to draw these lines on. Once the purple lines are done, I erase the chalk. Looking at my photo reference, I've decided to add Indian yellow wherever the warm colors will be and the greens. A glaze of quinacridone red is added to where the shadows and green trees will be. This is ultramarine blue with quite a bit of GAC 500 added to it. This is chromium oxide green. I'm placing it fairly thickly onto this tree. My goal is to place the marks in the way that the branches will grow. I also want to leave little bits of that background red. While adding this mixture of color, I'm using, besides my palette knife, a color shaper. They come in all kinds of different sizes, and the tips are made of rubber, and they're really great for pushing around paint and scratching in marks. I've used this combination of red oxide and raw umber for the reason of the red oxide is warmer than the raw umber, so I can do a juxtaposition of warm and cool colors. Raw umber is this wonderful neutral that seems to go well with almost any color that I use. Where the light is hitting these rocks is quite warm, so I wanted to keep a warm color here. So I took titanium white and added a tiny bit of red oxide. On my palette I have 3 shades of the raw umber and 3 shades of that red oxide, and that way I was able to go back and forth deciding where I wanted bits of warm and bits of cool as I went along. Here I'm back to red oxide and titanium white. I actually started with the titanium white and added a little bit of that red. For the areas that are lighter, I'm painting a lot thicker. Cobalt blue is a mid-tone color, so you could take cobalt blue straight from the tube and use it on this layer, or you could take ultramarine blue and add a little bit of white. Whichever blue you are using, add a little bit more white and add even more white as you go into the distant mountains. Here I want to add a little bit more of a gray color to make that look like it's more in the shadow. At this point I want to add some more shadows into the painting, so I've taken that ultramarine blue and put some glazing into it, which is that GAC 500, and placing it on top of the trees and other spots. At this stage of the painting, I feel that I have enough values to be able to evaluate how light to make the sky. So once I've got these shaded parts put down, I can now mix some more white into my blue and add it to the sky. My goal is to leave little bits of the red showing through. The red that stays behind will end up being the branches of the aspen tree. It's a great skill to add to your arsenal to learn how to paint negative space this way. It allows you to make choices with color, and especially when you have colors that you want to leave showing through. Here I'm getting a little bit more paint down into the reflected water. This is Chromium Oxide Green dulled down with some Raw Umber and a bit of white. Before finalizing the reflections in the water, I thought I'd get the light bits put on the side of these vertical trees. While I have that tinted red oxide on my palette knife, I'm looking for other places where I can place that color. On my palette, I still have the 3 shades of Raw Umber, and as I go along, I'm looking for places where I can continue to add those shades of color. Okay, so now I'm ready to get back into the reflections of the water. When painting water, keep in mind that it's a flat plane, so I'm placing down these marks mainly in a horizontal fashion, dragging down directly vertically once in a while, just to give a sense of reflection. We can play with a lot of varying color in the reflections of the water. We've got the trees, the rocks, the sky, and there's all these varying warms and cools as well. To keep the colors balanced throughout the water, I had to go back and forth with the different colors quite a bit. I chose between those cooler raw umbers and the warmer red oxides. Then we had the cool phthalo blue, and then we have the warm ultramarine blue or cobalt blue. We also have bits of that chromium green oxide. Once I have all parts of the canvas basically covered, I'm now looking to adjust the values. I'm making some of the colors lighter, some of them a little bit darker, and I move along this way. The foreground mountains didn't quite fit color-wise with the rest of the painting, so I took a phthalo blue glaze and placed it over that color. To provide a sense of light hitting the right-hand side of these trees, I've taken yellow oxide straight from the tube and placed it on with the palette knife. This is white with a little bit of yellow oxide added. By putting this on top of the rocks and letting some of the other color still show through, we're creating a little bit more light on those rocks. Besides the light on the rocks, it also creates a little bit more warmth. Whenever doing a painting, decide whether it's going to be a warm or a cool painting. By adding this little bit of warm yellow color onto the rocks, I'm definitely pushing this to the warm side of temperature. To finalize this painting, I realized that the mountain on the right-hand side was a little too dark. So I took ultramarine blue, some white, and I went over top with some vertical marks on that distant mountain. I also added the small stone on the right-hand side of the big boulders. This is a device often used in art. When you have something really large, like all this landmass on the left, add something small on the right to balance it out. Well, this painting is done. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a try, and on we go. Here's a list of the various ideas that we discussed in this video. So it might be a good idea to go through these, give these ideas a try on your own paintings, and see how it goes. Here's the list of supplies. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe for notice of new videos. Share this with anyone you think might enjoy it, and we'll see you soon. Bye.